Hello and welcome to the Herdline Podcast, hosted by Trace Johnson and the Herds Headset. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode where the Headset and Trace talk all things Marshall athletics. Be sure to follow us on X and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. Now, sit back, relax, and let's talk the herd.
Welcome back to the Herdline Podcast. We are ready for our final episode of 2025, although we haven't had that many because we're just recently started up, but this will be our last episode of 2025. Getting ready to head into the new year. Man, it's been a crazy whirlwind of a week here lately with Christmas and activities and things like that. Man, it's been wild. Been a great time lately. Looking forward to the new year. And this episode is going to be really centered around kind of a new year kind of vibe. We're going to be looking back at what we consider the top 5 moments, each of us, the top 5 moments of 2025 for Marshall athletics. A very interesting year, as we've been talking off camera and in text messages and stuff, talking about how it's been kind of a different kind of year for Marshall, almost like a, rebuilding kind of year in a way. And like, we're going to dive deeper into that later. And then we're also going to hit on a few expectations or hopes, whichever you want to look at, for the 2026 Marshall athletics season. And I think there's a lot to look forward to in 2026 in a numerous variety of different sports. So I'm looking very much forward to what 2026 will bring to the herd. So go ahead and starting out here, man. How was your Christmas? I know you talked about how it was wild. How was Christmas for you?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it was, like you said, a little wild, a little bit busy, but overall, it was a good time being able to be with a lot of family. And I was telling you, I'm still not done. I've got one more Christmas to go on New Year's Eve just because of how schedules of everyone worked out. So we still got a little bit of ways to go, but it's been a great, week overall. Very thankful to be able to spend time with family. Also thankful to get some herd stuff, and it was awesome. I was able to I put it on my social media, a picture that I had been wanting for many years in the Shoney's in Huntington long time ago. Whenever I was just a kid, I can remember going in, and right behind the counter, there was this picture that just looked beautiful. It was going really over the team of the 90s, and it kind of it's like a mural of almost with just different things, like Chad Pennington's on there, Randy Moss is on there, uh, key wins against South Carolina was on there. I mean, just cool stuff. And I've always wanted one, and I got surprised this Christmas with that exact picture, and that was pretty awesome. It's also autographed by Chad Pennington and Bob Pruitt. You can't get better than that. So
No.
Christmas was great to the headset. Very thankful for everything that I was able to get, and even more thankful of spending some time with family. And it was wonderful. But how was your Christmas, man? What all hurt stuff did you get this year?
It was very much like yours, very busy, a lot of moving parts, a lot of places to go, we hosted, a Christmas day or evening, we hosted some people and made some food and all kinds of stuff. So it's just a whirlwind kind of time, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. I absolutely love it. It was a great time. I got a lot of herd gear, and I tweeted I put on Twitter the other day, I kind of joking, but I said, man, Drug Emporium going out of business really helped my Christmas allotment this year because they really had a lot of awesome Marshall stuff. And like, I've always gotten stuff from there in the past, but like the fact that they were going out of business, which is unfortunate, but like I was able to benefit from that selfishly, but so yeah, it was a good time. And I know you sent me that picture of what you got, what you were just talking about in that frame. I've always loved that frame so much. Like I've seen that thing for years, and I'm like, man, I would love to get a hold of that, but eventually maybe one day I will, but I don't know. It's an awesome frame for sure.
I saw that you got something pretty amazing from like Goodwill.
I did. Hey, literally, my mom and my brother are huge Goodwill people. They go all the time. Me personally, I really don't like going there that much. Not because of any reason, just because I don't know. Most of the time, I never find anything. But they went, and my mom found a game-worn, game-used, circa 2015-ish era Marshall away jersey, number 1 jersey. So I don't know if it actually was like Chase Litton's or whoever's it was. But regardless, it was, you could tell it was game used and game worn because it's the exact style and everything. And it even had the sticker on the back where it was, you could tell they probably sold that at one of those athletic sales that they like to do every once in a while. You could tell it probably came from there. And they ended up putting whoever got that jersey really went to town on that, replacing that Conference USA logo with the Sunbelt logo, because that that looked absolutely spot on. I mean, you could not remotely tell that wasn't always there. I mean, I was kind of flabbergasted at how good that looked. And, you know, obviously I can't wear that jersey. I'm not a large, put it that way. I am not a large, but but it was a great find. So like, it's just going to be cool to have, you know, just as as decor basically. But yeah, it was awesome, man. I love
Yeah,
that.
man, that is amazing. I think I posted on social media to you. When I go to Goodwill, all I find is used underwear. I
Right,
can't ever
right.
find anything awesome. So, but that is a really cool find. And if your mom ever finds anything cool like that, I mean, tell her to give it to me too. I mean, let's get this going.
I'll keep you in mind if she finds any more Marshall jerseys. And she said that the funny thing is that the girl, the cashier, the worker said that they had just put that out, like literally just put that out. So if they wouldn't have, if they would have been there the next day, they wouldn't have found that. I mean,
Right.
it's just all about timing, and the timing worked out for me on that one. And it was like $10. I mean, come on,
Oh,
you can't get much better than that. So
no, you
yeah,
can't.
so yeah, I was tickled to death to find that, and that wasn't even part of my Christmas allotment. That was just something she found. So I was pumped for that for sure. But so now we're going to start getting into the crux of the episode here a little bit, and it's going to be interesting because I feel like there's a lot of different ways these could go. It's just there was a lot of things that happened this year athletically for Marshall that or new. Honestly, there's a lot of new things that came about this year, but I think there were very important things that happened. I know we said before we started recording that we didn't necessarily have the most like championship success as an overall athletic program this year, or as we maybe did last year or 2024. Maybe not quite as much, but I feel like there was a lot of important things that happened this year that are going to lead into a lot bigger things in the future, probably even starting this year, 2026 coming up. So there's a lot. It was almost like I know we said rebuilding year, but it's almost like a transition kind of year. And I think that's going to bode well for us moving forward. So we'll go ahead and start with you on this one, and we'll talk about, I don't know. I said I had a couple honorable mentions. You don't have to have them if you don't, it doesn't matter, but I just throw a couple honorable mentions on there. So if you have any honorable mentions you want to throw out there, go ahead. If not, you can go ahead and start with number 5, man.
Yeah, so whenever you take a look at this list, it's hard because how do you kind of encapsulate the best moments and the best accomplishments of an entire year for an entire school? And quite frankly, what I did is not necessarily what you would say, oh yeah, these are definitely the top five best moments. But quite honestly, it's my personal opinion on those moments. Because let's just be honest, I know that there was some success in track and field and doing different things this year, but I'm like I said, I don't really follow track and field that heavily,
Right.
so I don't know everything as far as that's concerned. So what my list is kind of consists of things that I know, things that I kind of followed throughout the season, and what I would consider the most and the best moments of this year that is widespread that even the casual fans would have at least heard about. So your honorable mentions would be those track and field type things, those situations where individuals saw success in some of those Olympic sports. But if I'm starting my list, I'll begin at number 5, and that is the last year's women's basketball conference run in Pensacola. Marshall, as you know, had a very tough season all around. They finished 15-20 at the end of the regular season and did not have much hope going into the tournament by any means necessary. But whenever it got into the tournament time, it was almost as if the March Madness spark began to ignite. The survive and advance mentality began to be their story. And they ended up pulling off 4 different upsets, wins in that tournament span. Games to which they were not even supposed to be in really any of them, but just they won and won and won and finally lost to Troy near the end of the tournament. But really, overall, for me personally, that was a great memory because, I mean, if you can remember, social media was just a buzz. I mean,
Oh yeah.
nobody had any expectations. Nobody thought anything was going to happen. But here these ladies did. They went in and they just kind of started to defy the odds and almost made it to the big dance, which would have been incredible. Could you imagine that?
Oh yeah.
But in all honesty, last season with the way that things finished, it brought a lot of hope. The year prior, Marshall had the best women's basketball team in all of history of the entire
Hmm.
school. Whenever your coach is taken away to Tennessee, which is what I would consider to be like the Alabama of women's basketball, that's pretty good. All right,
Yeah.
so but that was a really bright spot in the year, and I think that it definitely deserved to be mentioned in one of the greatest accomplishments that we saw in the year of 2025, no doubt.
I agree with you 1,000%, and that is on my list. Although I won't spoil where, but that's on my list. Exactly that exact run right there. I mean, that was an amazing moment, and really helped set up what we're seeing right now with the basketball team women's side. So yeah, that was awesome. But I'll go ahead and just get into a couple honorable mentions here. I did not put these on my top five, although because it wasn't. I mean, it included and it involved Marshall athletics to a degree, but it's not like an athletic team or a department, if that makes any sense. So it's kind of like one of those situations. So one of my honorable mentions I put on here was Mike Green being drafted in the second round. I mean, I just feel that's obviously a reflection of Marshall athletics because he played at Marshall, but like that's not like necessarily a Marshall achievement per se. So that's just where I went with that. I mean, that was a phenomenal moment. I mean, you could have put that on your list easily, but I just put it as an honorable mention just for that reason because that's more of a personal success more than I mean, it's Marshall too, but you know what I'm saying. So that was on there. And then I put as another kind of outlier honorable mention, Zach Bryan. I mean, that was a huge moment for Marshall Athletics. I mean, it wasn't just more. I mean, it was tied in with Marshall Athletics, but that was a humongous moment for Huntington, for Marshall, for the community, for the state, for the tri-state, for everything. I mean, that was a huge moment, drawing 30,000 people for a concert. They've never done that before. And hopefully that's going to lead to bigger and better things moving forward as far as having events and concerts at the Joan. I mean, that facility has been widely underutilized for years when it comes to that kind of thing. And I'm glad now that they've seen that they can have that much success with it. So that was my honorable mentions. But for my number five list, on my list for number five, I originally had it as just like a certain win, but then I kind of changed it to a little broader scope. Baseball's resurgence. That's why I put for number five, because they had a really good year. And you can see the difference that they're starting to have. You can see what the program is, how it's growing, and how it's getting better and better. And you could, because if you just look at 2024 season, that was the first year at Jack Cook Field, and that was an amazing moment having that opened up and everything. But they weren't a very good team. They were 18-37 in 2024. They did not have a great team. But last year, they ended up 33 wins, a 33-win team, 33-26 overall, which was their most wins since winning 34 games in 2016, and it was their first winning season since 2019. So you can see that they're really starting to make a lot of progress there. Bills really got them going, and I'm looking forward to what they have in the future. And a few notable wins that they had last year were nothing to sneeze at. They beat number 17 Georgia Tech, split with them. They took 2 of 3 against number 13 Southern Miss, who was one of the best teams in the country. And then they beat number 16 WVU in Charleston in walk-off fashion. So, they had some really, really nice wins last year. And I think you're going to see a lot of big things come out of this program in the coming years. And this year, even 2026, I'm looking really much forward to what they're going to do. And you can see that there's a momentum, that the momentum is carrying with them right now. And I really expect big things from them in 2026. So I think that's a good place to start there.
Yeah, baseball was fantastic last season, and in fact, they're on my list, but a little bit further down the line here. But yeah, you can't go wrong with that by any means. But kind of continuing on though, you had mentioned some honorable mentions and different things, and one of your honorable mentions is actually on my list. And at number four, it is one of the best moments that I had as a Marshall fan this season was seeing Mike Green drafted.
Yes.
Um, and you made some good points and different things as far as it's kind of a more of an individual type of thing. But just as a Marshall fan, I can say that it definitely was a top five memory that I have of this last season, just because it's been a while since we have seen a Marshall player be drafted at that level. We've seen them
Right.
drafted, we've seen sixth, seventh, even fifth rounders before take place, and a whole bunch of undrafted free agents that have been signed, and guys make a name for themselves and do different things. But to see one of our own get drafted at the upper level in the top tier of the second round, it's been a long time since we've been able to see one of our players do that.
Yeah.
And, just reflecting on the season that Mike Green had, he had a monster season the year before he entered into the draft. Again, 38 solo tackles, 6 assists, 22.5 tackles for loss, 17 sacks. First team All American, Sun Belt Player of the Year, College Football Network's Player of the Year, and led college football in sacks in total. And that was good enough to get him drafted second round, 59th overall. And the only reason that I believe that he was not selected higher is because of some off the field issues that happened a long time ago that, in my opinion, are a complete bogus thing. But that's
Yeah.
neither here nor there. But seeing him selected just brought a lot of great memories. Just brought back to the moments where we saw Byron Leftwich go, and Chad Pennington and Randy Moss and all those guys go in those upper level tier of the draft. And seeing kind of a Marshall guy return to that void and that conversation is just really cool. And then on top of that, what even makes me more happy about Mike Green in total is the fact that, he has been very involved with the program since
Yeah.
leaving in just 1 year. He came back, for the homecoming game, which was great to see. I love that. I love when players are able to come back, and I really do wish more of our Marshall legends would try and return. But on top of that, too, this was the coolest thing for me that Mike Green did all season is he paid for a team meal during the Thanksgiving week, and he just
Yes.
completely catered it. And so, Mike is a picture, I believe, of what it means to be a son of Marshall. Even though he did not graduate, even though his time here was not long, it's very, very nice to see him paying it back. Almost kind of on the same level of what we would expect Vinny Curry to do. And,
Right.
Marshall fans love Vinny Curry because he comes back. He's always around and he's always invested in the program. And so I think Mike was able to kind of experience that when Vinny was coming back whenever he was on the team. And I think that he saw how, much Huntington loved him. And it's good to see, him being able to follow in those footsteps and play a role majorly in the program. So definitely Mike Green was one of the top moments for me, and I got him at number 4.
Absolutely phenomenal moment. You just saw the raw emotion out of him that he was so tickled to death and thrilled and honored and blessed to be, in that situation of being drafted. And it's very interesting also that it turned out that he was drafted 59th overall, the same draft spot that Vinny Curry had, and the same draft spot that our new public enemy number 1, Aaron Dobson, had. But yeah, so I thought, nah, I'm just teasing. But no, that was really awesome. Really, really cool that although I think he was definitely a first round talent, obviously, but I can understand it. It doesn't take much for a team to it doesn't take much for people to start kind of fading off of you. At that point, it doesn't take that much. So regardless, I mean, I think at least as of the last week or two, he was, I don't know if he still is, but he was leading the Ravens in sacks as a rookie. So, I mean, he's had a good year, and I think he's going to keep getting better and better. Just had a fumble recovery against Green Bay recently. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in the future. So, moving on to my number 4, which was actually your number 5, the women's basketball, 4 wins in 4 days. I mean, that was electric, absolutely electric. I mean, they could not – nobody saw that coming. I mean, they had a pretty rough year regular season-wise in Julie Falk's first year, which you had to expect that because you had just lost Kim Caldwell and you lost a lot of players. You knew that it was going to be a rebuild. But, man, once they started clicking in a pretty big way. Ended up beating – they were 11. Marshall was the 11 seed. They beat 14 seeded South Alabama, 73-59. Beat 10 seed Texas State, 68-62. Beat 7 seed Louisiana, 48-46. And beat 6 seed Appalachian State, 75-66. I mean, that was impressive, and it kind of blows my mind that you actually have. If you were in that situation, you would have had to win 7 games in 7 days. that is that is a, I mean, that you talk about a gauntlet. If any team does that, they deserve to win the whole freaking national title. I mean, that's impressive. But even regardless, 4 games in 4 days, that is extremely impressive. I mean, you can't say much more about it than that. And then and I think that really helped directly set up what we're seeing out of this team right now. They're sitting at 11-3 overall and 2-0 in the Sun Belt. They're in first place in the Sun Belt right now, and they're having a really good year. And I don't know if it might be too early to compare it to the team from 2 years ago that ended up getting all the way to the big dance. It might be too early to do that, but man, they're really trending in a good direction. So I think that run, the 4 games in 4 days in Pensacola, really helped set up what we're seeing right now. And I think that that they're in for a really solid year and end of the year. So
Yeah, and I agree. And you know, it's hard to compare the best team in your entire school's history to another team.
yeah,
But in all reality, I agree with you on the fact that um, this is that what happened last season in Pensacola kind of has set up what we're seeing now. And Marshall women's basketball is in a whole lot better place than they have been in a long, long time. And I'm very glad about that because there's some rough seasons where people really did not, I'm just being honest, did not care much at all
you're
for
right.
Marshall
Yeah,
basketball. I know women's basketball anyway can be hard for some people to get kind of excited about, but
yeah.
definitely the last couple of seasons, Marshall has really kind of gone up as far as the total engagement with the fan base. People really enjoy to go out and watch them play, and they're exciting to watch. They play fast. And so overall, they're in a great spot. They're going to continue to do well, I think, under Coach Falks. She is a great coach, and I know that it's really hard to follow up who we had. I mean,
Oh
it
yeah,
just is. But I think that she is definitely going to do some very big things in the future for Marshall.
no
So,
doubt.
I'm glad about where we're at, and that's a good pick. Glad that you had that on your list as well as I did as too. So, anyway, moving on. Number 3 for me. Um, we talked about this in a couple of episodes before already, so I'm going to be a little bit brief with this. But, just the entire Marshall men's basketball season last season. Corny Jackson, first year head coach, didn't have any expectations from me as a fan, and a lot of other fans, I think, were in the same boat. And yet his team found a way to smash all of the stigmas and all of the naysayers and doubters
Yeah,
that there were. They ended up 20-13, which was very impressive. The most impressive win they had all season was against a very tough James Madison team. And so, overall, great start for Corny Jackson. And this year, we're seeing kind of an up and down year so far. I'm really hoping that we can see a little bit more consistency starting maybe even New Year's Eve and onwards to where we kind of, get into a flow and finish the conference out right and get a good seeding there for our Pensacola tournament. But I really just enjoyed last season watching the men play basketball, getting a 20-win season in a first year where you did not think very much of anything. So I'll take that. Very glad, very happy about our men's team last year.
no doubt. I'm right there with you. I mean, they had a very good year, honestly, considering the expectations was pretty low. You went in pretty much blind to that season, kind of like football was in 2025. You kind of went in blind, not really having a clue what you were getting, and they really did some good things. I mean, and like you said, I know we've talked about it on previous podcasts. We got to start seeing a more consistency out of them. I think that's doable. They went on the road and lost to Troy here recently, which Troy was the Sun Belt representative in the Big Dance last year. So they're a good team. But, you got to start seeing some of those closer losses turn into wins, and I think we'll be in pretty good shape. But that's a really good one to have on the list. So looking at my number 3, honestly, my number 3 and my number 2 are pretty much interchangeable. You could put either position, but I'm going to stick with it as this for now. Number 3, it's vague, but I think it's crucial. The start of the Tony Gibson era. That's number 3. I mean, it's vague. You didn't have a great season on the field. The results weren't terrific, 5-7. But man, oh man, we've talked about it. Everybody's talked about it. Marshall was in a crisis mode for the football program. It was bad. It was scary. for a while there, with the Huff, the departure and all that drama and all the players leaving and all this stuff. It was scary. And Tony Gibson came in and he has immediately turned around the fabric of the program. He's immediately turned around the whole, the whatever you want to look at, the brotherhood, the camaraderie, the whatever you want to call it. He has turned it around tenfold in a very short amount of time. And this kind of goes back to my point of, a lot of 2025 is almost like a rebuilding / transition kind of year. Well, this is an example right here. And I think that this was a huge moment for Marshall athletics. And this is going to be huge for the football team moving forward, because this is this whole era of college football right now is unprecedented, quite frankly. And you need a guy with the right stuff to lead a program, especially at this level. You need a guy that's really going to truly put everything he has into it. And you need a guy that's not always going to have one foot out the door and always going to be looking elsewhere. You need that. So it's almost like a cop-out answer in a way, but I think it is so, so important. So that's who I went with for number 3.
Yeah, Tony Gibson in the beginning of the journey that we're all going on with him, it's a big moment, absolutely. And I agree 100%. We've talked about this, and I know every Marshall fan that has been around and that has followed Marshall for many years has thought it at the very minimum that, what he has been able to do is amazing, even though we have not seen the amount of success that we are
Yeah.
used to seeing. And I've said it before, and I'll gladly say it again for to the end of time. Even if Tony Gibson doesn't pan out and he does not have a winning season and all that different kind of stuff, I don't believe that he will hurt the culture. I think that he is in fact building the culture for Marshall, and that's not to say that I have doubts about Tony Gibson. I think he'll get this thing turned around, and I don't think that we're
Yeah.
even going to have a conversation of
No.
if it's going to work out or if he's going to work out. I have complete faith in him. He's hired well this offseason, has a tremendous defensive staff, which I cannot wait to see. I
Mm-hmm.
expect a lot of great things this next year. So overall, that's a good pick. That's a good pick. He's not. That's not on my list, but that's a great pick. I
Yeah.
should have thought of that. but but going on to number 2 for me, my second biggest moment, my second favorite moment, the moment where you have moments every year as a fan of a college, I believe, in all sports, to where you find yourself after a great win kind of dancing in the living room. You know what I mean? And this is my second overall moment this season. So if you can recall, there was a little soccer game that was played, and it was in the Sun Belt tournament going forward, and the winner of the game would go on to the championship and play UCF, and it was between two in-state, some may consider rivals, others may not, I don't know, but just
Yeah.
depending on what side of the platform you stand on there. But it was Marshall and West Virginia, and it was one of the most exciting soccer games that I've ever watched. To be honest with you, it was tense the entire game. Like I can remember being like on the edge of my seat, like, man, I don't know what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
And it was back and forth really all game long. There towards the end of regulation, they tied it up 2-2, and the game would eventually go into double overtime. And we would see really towards the end of the second period of overtime, Marshall got a free kick inside of the box because of a little bit of a situation that happened, and they nailed it to win the game with just a couple minutes left on the clock overall. Then it would have gone to penalty kicks, and it was exciting, man. That was just an electric game from start to finish. The fans were in it, so in it, in fact, that as Marshall, if you can remember, was celebrating, there was a little scuffle between a West Virginia fan and one of our soccer players, and different
Yeah.
things, and so that was great fun. You love to see that kind of stuff, and well, you don't love to see it because obviously that guy was a complete moron, an idiot, and
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't really ever be allowed to go back to any West Virginia sporting events. But that's neither here nor there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but that just proves how big of a game that was, how big of a rivalry that it is between West Virginia and Marshall, no matter what everybody likes to say and all the speculation and all the down talking that we sometimes get from our friends up north. It is a rivalry. It is a always intense game, no matter what game is played, football, basketball, baseball, no matter what. So, but that soccer, I would say, is by far the most competitive, the best competition level that we've
Oh yeah.
got. And that night, Marshall had their number on the road in Morgantown, and I was just elated whenever that happened. It was a great moment, great memory for my own self personally.
Oh, just phenomenal. I mean, that's like one of those games where, we always look back at certain sports and certain, oh, remember that Purdue game, or oh, remember that Western Kentucky game for the basketball championship. Remember this, remember that. Well, that's one of those games. That's one of those games for sure. Unfortunately, I wish we could have followed it up with the title, but I think we kind of put it all into that game. didn't have a whole lot after that, but that notwithstanding, that was a phenomenal moment. I mean, absolutely fantastic. So looking at my number two, this one, I said earlier, would be interchangeable with number three, and I think that it's almost sort of a cop out answer, but I feel like it's again kind of like the Gibson start of the Gibson era. It's very important. I went with the hiring of Gerald Harrison as the athletic director. I mean, huge, huge. He has came in and he has immediately just guns a blazing. I mean, he's came in and he's immediately been as transparent as we have seen from probably ever as an athletic director. We've probably never seen this level of transparency on certain issues. Think about all the things he's put out there about I know everybody's complaining about the football scoreboard. He has put numerous statements out there saying, we're working to get this fixed. We're working to do this. We're working to do that. And then fans saying, oh, we need that. I've been beating this drum hard. We need more things in the stadium to show the history of Marshall football. We need more banners and things and championship success things. We need all that out there. Well, they started doing that. And like it was mid-season. They started putting stuff out there. And it's like that is impressive that number one, you're listening to the fans, and number two, you're actually taking the time to do something about it. And this is an era where it's NIL crazy, transfer portal crazy. It's just a different era of college football, college athletics, and we need a guy that is going to take us to the next level or get us over the hump there. And I think that he's the guy to do it. I think this is structurally a huge hire, and I think that he's his track record speaks for itself. He did a lot of great things at Austin P, and he's came over here and he's already done a lot of good things. And I'm very much looking forward to what he does in the future. And this is the guy to get us to a different level. I don't know. I mean, I don't know where we're going to go or if we're going to go anywhere or whatever, but I'll settle for winning. I'll just settle for winning consistently in the Sun Belt. Put it that way. I'll settle for being a top program in the Sun Belt at any level you want to look at. And I think this is the guy to get it done.
Absolutely. Harrison, like you mentioned, has been the most transparent athletic director that I can ever remember at Marshall University, bar none, period.
Yeah,
And I, as a fan, really appreciate that because we had no transparency for many years.
none.
Like if there was a problem, it was almost as if people just ignored it and just hoped that it would go away.
Mm-hmm.
And I really appreciate what Harrison has done. I appreciate his demeanor and the way that he comes across. I really believe this. I think he's just having fun. Like
Yeah,
he really enjoys his job. He really enjoys being where he's at. He enjoys and has been embraced by the Marshall community. And overall, he has been a absolutely perfect fit for Huntington, for us as Marshall fans, for our community, for everything. So he has been a breath of fresh air. I believe that Spears helped us get into the modern day and age of athletics. He did a lot of great things. He made some fantastic changes that needed to be made for a long, long time. But he did not have what I would consider is the right demeanor that is needed and necessary
I agree.
for us. He wasn't from here, and I honestly,
Mm-mm.
not to put words in his mouth or create speculation, but based upon some rumors that I had heard, I didn't think he really wanted to be here for the long term. It was more of a stepping stone, which that's
Yeah,
okay. I understand. But I think Harrison's a little bit of the opposite. I think he wants to be here. I don't know how long he'll be here by any means, but for the time that we do have him, he's all in, and he's doing just a tremendous job. So and like you said, I don't know if we're going to go to a different conference. I don't know what the future holds. It would be great if we can get
Mm-hmm.
into a position and a place where we can have some real consistency and have respect overall as a conference. And I think that we can have that here on the Sun Belt if everything kind of works out and we keep the James Madisons and the Appalachian States and the Louisianas and other teams that have been rumored to maybe make a jump.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can keep that, I think that we are really in a good spot, and we've got a great man leading the charge. He's good at raising money, good at addressing issues and putting things in place. And so I think that we're going to see these things continue to improve over the years under the leadership of Gerald Harrison. And I really appreciate him and his transparency and his demeanor and what he's already done in less than a year's
Yeah.
time. So, going on now to my number one in this list of great moments, and you had mentioned a little bit about it, but my number one best moment of the year was the baseball team making it to the Sun Belt Conference tournament. So let's just call it out like it is. For years, Marshall has been abysmal
Yeah.
at baseball, and it's no, we understand why. It's no surprise as to why
No.
this is the case. They played at the YMCA, and
Right.
that was half the games there, and half the games that was 45 minutes away in Charleston. So, you're not going to really build a strong program with a good fan base as long as you have that. Well, you flash back to a couple of years ago, and the baseball stadium, the Jack, was created, and Greg Beals was hired as the new manager of Marshall Baseball. And from that point forward, we have just seen a complete 180 change of direction as the entire baseball program is concerned. There was some struggles along the way and different things, but even in the struggles, there was a new excitement that was in Huntington for baseball. And then this last year, I think this solidified it. Marshall now along with being known for football and along with being known for a very solid basketball program, we are now on the verge of being known as a solid baseball program for the future.
Yes.
You mentioned it. We beat Georgia Tech. We beat a Troy team that was number 17 at the time. Southern Miss was number 13 at the time. WVU was number 16 at the time, and made it for the first time ever to the Sun Belt Conference tournament, which is no easy feat
Right.
because if you think about the Sun Belt, in my opinion, you got the SEC and the ACC that are battling for the 1 and 2 position, and arguably the Sun Belt and the Big 12 are that next spot. So we are
Mm-hmm.
one of the best baseball conferences in the entire country. And there's always teams that make runs. There's always teams that host regionals and different things every single season. So the fact that Marshall was able to make it to that tournament, that's a huge deal.
It
Like
is.
that's a bigger deal than I think anybody ever thinks about. Not just the fact that they made it, but the repercussions of that. I think that we're really going to see this next baseball season tons of fans consistently come out and watch Marshall baseball. And I really believe now that the Jack is going to be one of the top tier baseball atmospheres, in the conference. And then over time, I think that it even has potential to be in the country. Because it's top of the line. One of the best baseball facilities in the country. Just got new locker rooms and different things as well, and facilities for the baseball program. It's
Yeah.
going in the right direction. Lots of excitement. Good coach. That honestly, Greg Bills is one of my most admired coaches that we have. He loves his place, and
Mm-hmm.
you can tell it. I mean, he just really appreciates the fans. He appreciates, the city of Huntington. He's put it out there many of times, and so all of that said, the baseball team making the tournament, that was such a big deal. Beat Louisiana, which was, I mean, the fact that we made it, that's good enough for me to put number one based upon the history of our baseball team. But then
Yeah.
they get a win, and sadly, they ended up getting to face off against really the kryptonite of Marshall and really a lot of other teams, and that being Coastal Carolina, the national champion runner-up.
Right.
So, you can't be super mad and super upset at the fact that they couldn't get past them because they ended up going all the way to the college baseball World Series and losing to LSU. So I mean, you can't get super upset about that. But I plan on following Marshall baseball more intently than I ever had this entire season because there's just so much excitement. People are really, they came last season. We saw a
Yeah.
couple of sellouts last year, and I just cannot wait for baseball this year. I think there's going to be some big things, and it all is thanks to the year in total that Marshall had last season and the noise that they were able to make by making it to the Sun Belt Conference tournament.
I'm with you 100%. I mean, I think that I mean that's a huge deal. I mean, the fact that we've seen, like you said, this program has just been pretty sour for a long time. And you would have a year here and there where they'd be good, they would kind of defy the odds, but man, you just could not string together any consistency. I mean, it's hard to sell. It's hard to sell to recruits. Oh, we're playing at the Y. Oh, we're playing in the middle of freaking nowhere. I mean, it's just not. That's hard to sell to recruits, especially in this day and age. So the fact now we have our own place that is just a fun place to go watch a baseball game. It just is. It's a fun place to go watch a baseball game. Baseball games in general are just fun to be at. It's just the atmosphere is just different than any other sport. And the fact that now we're seeing a lot more energy put into it and a lot more results come with it, man, I'm excited to see what they do in the future. And even though that was number 5 on my list, well, most baseball was number 5. That could have been higher. And it's very tough to rank all these, but that one is definitely one of the best for sure. No doubt. So looking at my number 1, and you've already talked about it, I put the men's soccer 3-2 win over WVU. I hate giving them that much credit. I hate putting anything WVU that high on a Marshall list, but that was a great moment. Probably the single best athletic moment of the year, I would say. Probably, like, for a single moment, I think that was it. I mean, it was just electric. First time they'd ever won in Morgantown. WVU had just put the graphic out there about the graveyard and how they always beat Marshall in Morgantown. Marshall responds with the Undertaker rising up out of the casket. That was hilarious. I mean, that was hilarious. But that was an amazing moment. First ever win in Morgantown, to my knowledge, at least. They had another really solid year. Marshall, I mean, 12-4-5 record, had too many ties. I think that's kind of what hurt them. They had too many ties and had a couple just stinker performances. But I mean, that finished ranked 17th overall in the final poll, and they got a win in the NCAA tournament before losing to the eventual national runner-up, NC State. So I mean, when you're talking about all these things, and you're almost talking as if it's a disappointment, your program is really rolling. I mean, we got a top 5, probably top 5 program in the country. I mean, that's just the way it is. So anything less than championship or competing for a national championship is going to be considered a disappointment. And that is a wild thing to say, coming from, Marshall and any sport. To have that kind of level of expectation is wild. But you know what? That's the way it is. And yeah, I definitely think that fan, that Morgantown fan there should not be able to come back to any more events, but we're not. That's another story for another day. But I did love the fact how he cowered away when the Marshall fans stepped up to him. I loved that so much. But no, that was an amazing game, amazing moment. So that was my number 1 on the list for sure. I mean, it's tough to rank all these, but that's the one I went with just because of the best singular moment. Moving on to a little bit different. That's 2025. We're gonna look a little bit ahead at 2026 now. Look into a little bit of what we hope to see this year. And you could go a lot of different ways with this. You could go team results. You could go certain things with the athletic department. You could go certain things with anything. But so it's just a few. I just wrote down a few things expectation wise. So, but I'll go ahead and let you start, man. Whatever you want to go with, go ahead and go with it. We'll see how they compare at the end.
Sure. So, well, you could, like you said, start with the on-field performances and different things, and we've alluded to these things before, but we're hoping to see a big improvement from football. We're hoping to see more consistency from basketball. We're hoping to see the next step in the baseball evolution. We're hoping to see a national championship in
Yeah.
soccer, and so that's really the expectations. But I do believe that right now, what is definitely needed, as far as just around the university, around the campus, and you mentioned it whenever you're talking about Gerald Harrison. Let's really get our history out there. And I remember I made a list and put it out on a article that I made a long time ago, just about some ideas that we could do. And we've seen some things already take place, but we talked about the banners in the football stadium, right? Well, those are great, but they're also incredibly small. Let's get some
Right.
bigger ones, and let's really highlight some of our best players and different things. And then along with that, let's highlight some of the best moments in Marshall history. I've been to James Madison. I went to a game a couple of years ago, and I went over onto their home side. That's what I like to do whenever I go somewhere, just kind of walk the stadium and look around. And they do a tremendous job at displaying where they have come from and where they are at now. They had an entire timeline that went throughout the entire home concourse from the beginning of James Madison football to playoff moments to key wins to national championships to now
Yeah.
Sun Belt Conference. I'm sure that they're going to add that championship to that mural. I think that's easy. It's not something that you need to take a lot of money and spend it on, but it's simply being able to display some of the stuff and some of the things that your university has done. I think that we should do that in the football stadium, especially at the Cam Henderson Center, because right
Yes.
now it's bare bones in the concourse. It just is. It's not
Hmm.
very nice. It's old. And you could even make a you could make an argument that we should just tear down the Cam and build a new basketball facility altogether. You could make that, but I don't know if that's feasible. And if not,
Yeah.
I think that you try your very best to make the Cam a lot more updated. And one idea that I keep seeing people put out there, and I agree full fledged, is let's hire somebody from Huntington that's an artist to come in. Let's paint a mural. Let's paint a few
Yes.
murals, right? Let's put something on a big wall where we can see guys like Randy Moss and Chad Pennington and Byron Leftwich and Vinnie Curry and all those guys that have been Marshall legends, and just display them. Again, that's not expensive. That's not hard. You just got to find somebody that's in Huntington that's good enough to do it, and that's a community service act almost.
Right.
I mean, that's investing in somebody that lives in your backyard. And it would mean something. Fans would be able to go around and take pictures in front of it, and just little things like that. I think, and I'm glad too that they put in those little banners, the see-through mesh banners about our conference championships.
Hmm.
I think that we should do a better job of displaying that. I think that we could see something a little bit, more state of the art somewhere in the stadium.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, all of these are easy things. I mean,
Easy.
just very, very simple. Doesn't cost a lot of money. And one thing that I would love to see, and I'm not saying this is an expectation by any means, but I just love to see it. We had those rumors of the stadium renovation there at the Joan and the end zone, and I don't know if that's going to pan out or not anymore, just because of how expensive that was. And I don't know. I think Spears kind of outkicked his coverage a little bit on that.
Yeah.
But something that I want to see happen, regardless, is let's take down those bleachers that are in the end zone that have been covered up with tarps, and this year weren't even covered up with tarps. They're just empty. I mean, that looks
Yeah.
awful on
Awful.
TV. Just terrible and kind of embarrassing. And what you do is so simple. This is an easy fix. If you don't want to build that big, nice double tier, suite area there in the end zone, why don't you just put some risers in the end zone, get rid of that little concourse back and forth, and just keep the main one that loops around the stadium there, that gives you field level view. And let's put risers back there, and we could put in, some concessions or whatever, and just level that out, get rid of the eyesore, and have something else that is going to look actually good.
Hmm.
Gerald Harrison, if you're watching this by chance, please do this. That would just be
Please.
wonderful. That would be wonderful. But that's something that I expect this year. Gerald Harrison, with the full year in, he's been able to go and see different things as far as the Cam, as far as the Joan. Right now, the Jack doesn't need any renovations. It's fantastic. But I think that that's something that's easy to do. It's not something that's going to break your bank.
Yeah.
And it's something that would really mean a lot to all of us fans going forward.
Brother, you could not have said it any better. I mean, that's the bulk of what my expectations are. But I'll just hit on a few like results that I hope to see just real quick. But men's and women's basketball teams, 20 plus wins, and I want to see them play in postseason somewhere. That would be great. I mean, I think that's doable. I don't know if both of them, I mean, I'm not necessarily predicting like NCAA tournament or NIT or whatever, but I'd like to see that. I think that's more than doable. Even if they don't play in the NCAA tournament, I think both programs can win 20 games this year, or at least. So I would love to see that. And for football, I'm talking in the regular season only, at least 8 wins. That's what I hope to see. That's what I expect to see. And then that's not including a bowl game. That's 8 wins before you get to a bowl game. That's what I want to see. Now, if they go 7-5 and win a bowl game, go 8-5, am I going to be upset? No. But like, I want to see that. That should be the bare minimum, I think, of this year. And then talking men's soccer, Sun Belt title. It's been a couple years since we've got one. Got to get it. Got to get it back. So we got to get back to that point. And of course, a natty would be great. But that's neither here nor there. And then baseball, compete for a Sun Belt title. Compete for getting farther than you got last year. They won 33 games last year. 35 wins would be great this year or more. So I think that's doable. I'm not saying that. I mean, Coastal Carolina is a freaking juggernaut, and like there's some juggernauts in this league. So it's hard to like expect Marshall to win it, considering they've never really even sniffed it. But now you got more expectations that I think they can really push some of these teams pretty far. So we'll see how that turns out. But a lot of my things that I want to see this year, those are more hopes. These are expectations. These are, I want to see these or I'm going to keep complaining about it. That's what these are. Improvements to the Joan, banners, signs, etc. Do it, period. I mean, you're in an NIL era where we don't have a $20 million budget. If you're gonna impress recruits and you're gonna make a name for yourself and you want to get your name out there, you have to do this. This is something that we have just flat out miserably failed at for years. You have got to improve. We got to see more things, successes that we've had as a program. And I love that idea that you have of the timeline. I love that. Why not do that? Like we literally, everybody has said for years, coaches, administrators, etc. We have a story that's a one of one. We're the only one that can say that we've done this. Sell that. It's not rocket science. Sell it. And it's like, you have an awesome Hall of Fame that nobody knows about. Nobody knows it's there.
Absolutely.
Nobody knows it's there. And it's awesome. But like, put some signs, do something, some neon letters, some lights. I don't care. Do something to let people know that that's there. That's a minimum. That's a bare minimum thing. And then I also put, and you said it, do something with the south end zone bleachers. Do something with them. They're horrible. Like, it's just an eyesore at this point. They need to, you need to take them down. That would be preferable if you just took them down altogether. But you have to do something so it just doesn't look like there's empty, nasty looking bleachers there. I mean, that's a bare minimum thing, I think. I mean, and like you said, that project that they had talked about with getting that whole new end zone redone, I don't know how feasible that is anymore, especially since they just put all that work into the Dutch Miller deck and all that. I just don't know how feasible that is anymore. But it'd be awesome if they ended up doing it. But you have to do something with those bleachers. I mean, period. Next thing I wrote down, retire 88. That's it. Retire 88. It's time. It's beyond time. You have to do it. You have to, even if you don't, you have to at least put his number up on the press box with Gatsky. Like, it's time. I mean, come on. What more needs to happen? Get it done. Just get it done. It's something that would bring back so many fans. It bring back so much interest to Marshall. Just do it. Just get it done. And then I've been beating this drum a lot here lately too. 3 words: Ring of Honor. Let's do it. Ring of Honor. It is time that we celebrate this program and the history that we've had. It is time to put these players' names out there. It's time to bring them back, to give them a ceremony. It's time to do this. It is beyond time to do it. And there's no excuse. There's no excuse. This is an easy, superficial thing that does not require that much time. You put their name, whatever, on the press box. Heck, you know what? You could even put them on the the wraps around the stadium, but they probably won't be able to take off all those sponsors that are all in there. I get that, but wherever you can put them somewhere, put it that way. Do it somewhere. And then I put also we got to like change a little bit of the look of like superficial stuff on other parts of the area, like the outside of the Cam Henderson Center, that dingy looking gray whatever. No, you got to cover that up, put some green wraps on that, whatever it is. It just looks. I remember I saw a shot last year when we were on TV again. I think it was App State when they played here and we were on the ESPN2, and you got the Hal Greer statue there, looks awesome. But then in the background, you just see a dingy old gray looking building that just does not pop whatsoever. You've got to do a little bit of work to that, I think. And like you said, that would be very minimal cost, I'm sure. I mean, you just put a big green wrap with the M on it. I mean, it doesn't take that much, and it would really, I think, be a big difference maker just from the eye. It just looks like an eyesore. And then another thing, and I know that Fat Patty's is like an institution in Marshall, but when you drive down 3rd Avenue and you drive up to the stadium, you see that old dingy looking brick building that's sitting there, and it just looks like you need to cover that up too. Cover that side of that up, make it look a little more vibrant. I don't know. I mean, just the certain things like that, I think will go a really long way. So that's most of my expectations, and honestly, most of my hopes for this year is just that they'll fix some of those types of issues, because these are things, heck, that fans will be more than happy to come out and help with. You know what I'm saying? It's not that taxing. So yeah, that's most of what I hope to see this year, and I think that in the little small amount of time that Harrison's already been here, I think that he will start. That he's already done a good job with addressing some of those things. Now they're probably not finalized. Like some of those banners and things, like the conference championship thing at football. That's probably not the final product, hopefully, but like that's a good start. But now that you got a whole year under your belt now to work towards it, I expect to see big things.
Right. And I agree with all of that. That's all good stuff. And going back, I love your idea of a ring of honor of some sort. I think this is very simple, a simple fix that would be able to really mesh in a whole lot of different ideas and things into one. And in the long run, it'll cost you some money, but it wouldn't cost you nearly as much money as it would if you were to go a different route. So, of course, that end zone, let's say that we get rid of the bleachers but we don't have enough money to be able to build that two-tier
Yeah.
luxury suite box that we wanted. Okay. Well, here's the fix, in my opinion. Let's put a nice building of some sort that's long enough to kind of take up all of the space or somewhat most of the space in the end zone, and let's move our Hall of Fame from the indoor practice facility into that particular location.
Mm-hmm.
And what you can do is a couple of things. You can do, number one, put all of your conference championships and bowl wins on the side of that building. Those big circular things that we used to have, hey, get
Yeah.
them out of storage or make some more or do something very similar, and let's put them on that side of the building. And then also on that particular building too, you don't if they don't want to put some more numbers and different things on the press box, well, why don't we do some things as far as your ring of honor, put their names on that building, like Chad
Yeah.
Pennington, Byron Leftwich. I mean, let's just put a bunch of things right over there and make that our hub for anybody that is maybe a Marshall fan that doesn't get to come to games all the time because they live out of town, maybe a visitor who's just trying to look around and look at our stadium. Make that the hub of, hey, you want to know our history, you want to see some cool stuff about Marshall. Inside of this building, we've got our entire history. We've got a section for the 75. We've got a section for the Young Thundering Herd. We've got a section for the most winningest team in the 90s. We've got a section for Doc Holliday's great teams in the 2010s and so on and so forth. Let's really, like you said, sell our history. And it's a simple thing to do by just creating a place inside your stadium that is advertised and that is clear as day. Hey, if you want to know our story, come in here and get a part of whatever it is here. And then on top of that, too, if you want to make money off of this, Build a
Right.
little deck, right? I mean, just build like a little awning with some walled off places, like the very similar to the Dutch Miller, and say this is your Hall of Fame suites,
Hmm.
and you can make money off that too. So I guess what I'm saying is that is such a simple thing. It would revolutionize the way that the Joan looks. We would look a whole lot more intimidating on television as it's kind of all encompassed and walled in, and I think it would make a big difference overall. So I think that's just an idea to throw out there.
Oh my gosh. We could literally do a whole podcast on this right now. Like we could literally do an hour long podcast on this. And I would just, I've been so keen on this for so long. And I know you have too. It's like these things, these are just bare minimum easy fixes. I mean, we're not asking for a new stadium. We're not asking for a $20 million NIL budget. Just put our history out there more. It's like we don't have the resources that all these big time schools have. We don't have, $20 million to spend on a roster. We don't have all this stuff. We're not on ESPN or ABC every week. We've got to do something that, number one, impresses your fans when you're there. And number two, well, I guess the fans and the visiting fans, but number two, you have to sell your program and impress recruits. If they come and they just see, I mean, now we've seen a lot of improvements with facilities, and I think that's really helped tremendously over the last decade or so. And that goes back to Mike Hamrick. He did a phenomenal job with getting facilities, but these are bare minimum things that we need to do. And I think I briefly talked about the Hal Greer statue and whatever. How about a Randy Moss statue? Like, that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, having him go up and moss a guy on a statue. I mean, come on. How cool would that be? Or, I mean, I'm not saying that has to happen, but I'm saying that would be a pretty dang big eye catcher when you walk up to the Joan. Or, and like, I think we just got to get him back involved more. We got to retire 88, or at least honor it, put it up in lights, whatever. Like, he's a pro football Hall of Famer. It's time to really sell that. That should be a guy that everybody immediately recognizes with Marshall. So that's just what I think. And I'm sure throughout the year we'll probably touch on more of these things as we think of them. And hopefully as the year progresses and we do future podcasts, we'll see some of these changes made. But anyways, that's basically what I got for that. And I love your ideas as well. I think that those are all awesome ideas that would really help our case out tremendously athletically, and just the appearance of the programs. I think it would be awesome. So if there's nothing else you want to add, if you got anything else to add or any last thoughts or anything, then we'll go ahead and close out of here. Have you got anything to add, man?
Yeah, go Herd. That's all I got for you.
Go Herd, man. I'll tell you what, looking forward to 2026. Y'all have a really happy new year and be safe. Have a great new year. Try to avoid the snow if we get any snow. They're saying we could get some snow for New Year's, so be careful with that. Just have a good new year. Let's kill it in 2026 for the Herd. Let's do it.